Hello, Lee Camp.
What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy?
All right. How are you? You know where I come from. You got to you got to pay a pretty penny for a bag of robot dicks. You really do. It's like the highest level at the strip club. It's a tiered system, really.
It is. Robot dicks are tiered. They really are. And basically, if you get them as a bag of robot dicks, it's kind of like a bundle.
You can buy the bundle of robot dicks.
Yeah. So you're actually, it's like Costco. You're saving. If you buy in bulk, you save it. You save actually.
I thought it was called a gaggle, and that's as far as I'm taking that pun. That is as far as I'm taking it.
Oh, a gaggle of robot dicks, ladies and gentlemen. Well, in honor of gaggle of robot dicks, it's Government Secrets episode 30. We did it, buddy. 30 episodes.
We made it to 30. We've only been demonetized, suppressed, and I had a couple of Molotov cocktails thrown through the window, but other than that, easy riding.
It's been smooth sailing. Just one of us we're gonna be targeted and black bagged into an unmarked van at some point, and but
you keep calling it Stalin Tube, and I would like to say I am offended as a card-carrying Stalin fan club member. I think it's insulting to Stalin. I think you're hurting his image, his legacy.
Okay. I will write a written apology to all the Stalin fans. There's a Stalin fan club. Yeah, I just subscribed to the Nikita Khrushchev when he just de-Stalinized Russia and just acted like Stalin never existed, just wiped him off there, which is so fascinating. I did this tour when I was there, and they were like, here's this like artwork, whatever, like in one of the subways, have some of the subways that were built by Stalin after World War II are just amazing artwork. And they're like, there used to be a mosaic of Stalin and Lenin, and then now it's just Lenin. Like they just said, nope, he didn't happen. He never happened.
Yeah. I know some people around here that are really great at ripping down statues. If they ever need our help, if the Soviet Union has any, they still want down.
I'm down. I'm down with a statue ripping. So what did we want to discuss today, Lee? Because a couple significant things have happened. First of all, the Judas and the Black Messiah has been out for about a week or so. We both watched it. We're going to talk about that, but also was the anniversary yesterday of the assassination of Malcolm X. And what happened? Big news. I mean, do we discuss the Fred Hampton movie first, or do we talk about this like sort of bombshell deathbed letter that just dropped about Malcolm X?
Let's go with bombshell deathbed letter.
Bombshell deathbed letter. Malcolm X Government Secrets. First segment. Do you want to read it? Should I? How do you want to do this? How do you want to do this?
I don't. I did read up on it, but I don't have the article in front of me. So if you want to read it, go ahead.
Government Secrets screen share.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that had a special song to it.
There is. Everything has a sound effect. All right. Deathbed letter from former cop claims New York Police Department, the FBI helped kill Malcolm X. Well, oh my goodness.
Yeah, but before we get into that article, I just want to say, I did watch the series on Netflix, great series on titled, I think, Who Killed Malcolm X, and really does reveal a lot of things. But it obviously doesn't get into this because this is new. But anyway, I'll see if I can connect the two a little bit after you go through the article.
I don't know why my screen behind me keeps going to all blue. Like it just keeps. More robot bags of dicks.
Is this the latest? Yeah, is this the latest YouTube attack? They're like,
yeah,
no more background scenery.
Graham doesn't get a cool background anymore. We just want to flash blue on there, right there. What's that? Is that Blue Man Group street team?
I was always hoping you'd paint your face something.
Just never talk and do all their weird shenanigans.
So it's just gonna be a seizure background through the whole show, huh?
Yep, it's government secret seizure background. Oh fuck! What that? Whatever. God, this pisses me off. I got no. I'm just gonna shut it off. Whatever.
Yeah, shut it off.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it's just like everything's going downhill for Graham. He's demonetized. The background's flashing. It's just
it just looks like this. It's just gonna collapse. Like everything's collapsing.
Warning! Not official talking points of corporate America. Warning.
Warning, Malcolm X was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Wikipedia confirms. Warning. All right. So a cousin of Ray Wood, a former undercover police officer, shared a confession letter in which Wood said that the agencies facilitated the assassination. Okay. So a letter shared by the family of deceased former New York police officer alleges that the New York City Police Department and the FBI played a role in the murder of a powerful civil rights leader. The outspoken, he was former spokesperson of the Nation of Islam, died on February 21st, 1965. Give people a little context. So this is he had already broken with the Nation of Islam.
Yep.
Now next, he basically discovered Elijah Muhammad was sort of doing he was going against the teachings of Islam. He was like sleeping with his secretaries and doing some other stuff. So then,
it seemed there was a lot of money laundering going on and some forms of fraud and yeah.
Right. And Malcolm X was he was a purist and he was like, this ain't right, so of course, when you speak the truth, you get targeted. And, so Roy Wood was a former undercover police officer who wrote in a newly released confession letter that the NYPD and FBI worked with him to make sure the two men in charge of Malcolm X's security detail were arrested in the days before the speech. So the two head guys of his security detail got arrested basically, and this article goes into it. They concocted this crazy plot to blow up the Statue of Liberty, and they implicated these two guys so that they were arrested, so that then it was easy to get people into the hall, the Audubon Hall, I believe it was called, where Malcolm X was giving a speech.
Yeah, meaning they knew there'd be no check at the door because they didn't have enough security people. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gave this Ray Wood shared this confession with his family when he was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2011. He asked his cousin Reggie not to share the letter until after he died. God, that went on for 10 years, man. He died in November, and Reggie Wood shared his cousin's confession publicly on Saturday, flanked by a group that included Malcolm X's daughters and civil rights attorneys, right? The U.S. So this is nuts, man. I mean, for 10 years, he said, I carried the confession secretly in fear of what could happen to my family and myself if the government found out what I knew. Reggie Wood said Saturday. So Ray Wood confessed that the NYPD, and the U.S. government all made sure Malcolm X wasn't adequately protected from assassination during his final speech. I participated in actions that in hindsight were deplorable and detrimental to the advancement of my own Black people, Wood said. Now, this ties into, we'll get into it, but Bill O'Brien, who was the undercover guy that helped get Fred Hampton assassinated.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and they're the same program. Is this ongoing war of the FBI against strong Black leaders, the Black prophetic class, the Black Panthers. This is all kind of part of that. And they took people out in different ways. Initially with MLK, they sent him a letter trying to get him to kill himself by saying they knew that he was having an affair and stuff. And they said, you really need to do the right thing and take your own life. So they would try different things to get to either sideline or get rid of these people. buying them off, maybe in some cases as well. But with Malcolm X, I think that what this guy's saying, what this cop is saying, and what was said in that Netflix series could work together. It's not necessarily two competing theories, even though the Netflix series does not say anything about this police officer.
Yeah, and because it really, what happens here is I want to bring up another article that I found. This was in The Guardian 6 years ago. Okay, Malcolm X assassination, 50 years on, mystery still clouds details of the case. And Ray Wood is mentioned in this, but they don't know this information about him that just got released Saturday. So they talk about all the different a cast of co-conspirators in this article. The late Herman Ferguson, a founding member of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which was founded by Malcolm X after he left the Nation of Islam. Recall the police car, which pulled up along the ballroom and brought out a man with an olive complexion, obviously in great pain. Watched as the squad car sped away over the Hudson River. So in the days following, NYPD also arrested 2 other members of the Nation of Islam's Mosque 7 in Harlem, which really goes, this Guardian article from 6 years ago touches on, as it sounds like the Netflix documentary did, of that there was clearly a conspiracy and NYPD was clearly somehow involved. But now we know, like, this really connects the dots. I think the Ray Wood letter.
Yeah, the Netflix series pretty much puts the assassination at the feet of the Nation of Islam, but shows that the NYPD was aware of these threats against Malcolm X, was doing nothing to try and stop them, was doing nothing to try and keep him safe. And in the kind of one of the most bombshell moments in that Netflix series, and I'm sorry, I don't have the guy's name in front of me, but was that one police officer his job was to infiltrate Malcolm X's group, and he ultimately became Malcolm X's top security guy. And when Malcolm X was shot, so Malcolm X on stage, the 3 people come running up, shoot him multiple times. This guy who Malcolm X thinks is his best friend and security guard jumps on stage and legitimately tries to save him, gives him mouth to mouth. And the Netflix series reveals this guy is, I think, NYPD. He was a police officer of some sort. And Malcolm X didn't know that. And in fact, they have an interview with another NYPD guy who's like, man, I just don't understand why he tried to save him. What the hell was that? like basically saying, how dare this infiltrator try and save Malcolm X? We're trying to kill Malcolm X. Why are you doing that? But, and that just goes to show how close how far the NYPD had gotten into his organization. They were his top security guard. He just didn't know it.
Wow. I mean, it makes sense because they just wanted him silenced, so they don't care how they're going to do it. And it's like, oh, great. Now we can blame the nation, let the Nation of Islam get away with this, which it sounds like the Nation of Islam did, they did it. But the fact that NYPD was heavily involved and allowed this to happen, and even his security aide, guy gives him mouth to mouth, maybe he had a change of heart and felt bad, or maybe he just wanted to give the appearance of, oh, I'm his guy. I wanted to try to save him. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah. And they arrested. So afterwards they arrest 3 people for the killing: Thomas Hagen, Norman 3X Butler, and Thomas 15X Johnson. And Thomas Hagen in the trial admits to being one of the shooters. But they know which one. One of them had a shotgun, and that's the lethal shot. So Thomas Hagen, despite admitting being one of the shooters, did not fire the lethal shot. And but the other 2, Thomas Hagen always said that the other 2 were innocent. They were not. The other 2 were 100% innocent, and the NYPD just needed someone to pin this on and figured, why not take out 2 guys that we don't like much anyway in the neighborhood? And so they grabbed these two guys, and they interviewed one of them who, I think one of them died in prison. The other one got out recently, like in the past 10 years or something. And they interviewed him and, you know, talked to him about all those years he spent in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And they eventually tracked down the guy that they're almost certain fired the actual, you know, shot that killed him. And he's this highly respected religious leader with a gym, like ran a gym in Newark, New Jersey. And he died during the making of the series, or immediately after or something. And he was so respected in the community that, like, they had a big funeral with, like, New Jersey leaders were there. Cory Booker featured him in an ad for president. Yes. A presidential campaign ad. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, this is the guy that shot Malcolm X, and he's now viewed as this highly respected leader of the community. And so both these things could be true, and I think they probably are, that this guy who's saying he was involved in it, who on his deathbed was involved in it, and that this guy that they found to be the shooter likely was the shooter. Oh, yeah, there he is.
Al-Mustafa Shabazz, who died in 2018, lived in Newark. This is a New York Times article that came out a year ago asking who actually killed Malcolm X.
There you go. Yeah. So that's when the series came out, and the series got them to reopen the case. So the case is back open again, and I'm sure this deathbed confession will have some impact on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, what the deathbed confession just says, it just fills in some pieces. It's not a like either or choice. It's like, oh, it makes everything that's been uncovered up until now in this documentary and now with the letter, it just all makes even more sense. Cause it's like,
right.
If Ray Wood's job was to get his security detail out of there and then just let the Nation of Islam do what they wanted to do, great. And then of course NYPD Blue, as corrupt as they are, NYPD Blue, the series, the Dennis Franz series, that series, Dennis Franz is very correct. NYPD, it makes total sense that they went, oh, we got Malcolm X out. We got the shooter. Why not pin it on a couple other guys? And just, I mean, all of it makes sense. It's not to me, there's like,
yeah. And we may never know how much they influenced this guy who likely did the shooting, Shabazz. You know, they were, as we see, they were infiltrating all of these movements, and they would recommend that they do things. They would recommend that people, you know, try and assassinate someone. They would push people to try and commit more violent crimes so that they could arrest them for that. In the Fred Hampton movie, which we'll get to in a minute, the infiltrator tries to get them to take a box of C4 explosive with the plan of bombing City Hall. And Fred Hampton at least in the scene, Fred Hampton and the other guy are like, you fucking out of your mind. But the reason he was doing that was he was wired and he was hoping to get them on tape saying that they were preparing to blow up City Hall.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, look, they did every possible tactic that they could. I mean, like you said, with Malcolm, with Dr. King, I mean, they were like, they recorded him, you know, having extramarital affairs. And they're like, all right, we'll fry him this way, you know, like whatever they could, I mean, if you look through this lineage of specifically black leaders, Bobby Seale, I mean, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, Dr. King, I mean, anyone that was going to help unify and fight for the black community in whatever way, they had to take them out however they could do it. And they did. I mean, this is, again, none of this stuff should be shocking because this is what our State Department and the CIA has done to destabilize governments, you know, throughout the world, as we cover on this show on a weekly basis, of just like, well, they'll back this horrible person because the other horrible person won't give up their resources, and they'll do whatever. I mean, however they got to do it.
Yeah, and when they're not killing them or fostering plots to kill them, they're finding reasons to arrest them, even when there's no reason to arrest them. So with Fred Hampton. They locked him away. In the movie, they say it was $60 worth of ice cream, but they locked him away for quote unquote stealing ice cream,
right?
Which of course is horse shit or whatever. And then also in the movie, they talk about how they had a police informant who they thought had killed someone, and they sent him from one Black Panthers chapter to another to stay there for a night so that the cops could then follow him and say, you're abetting a known criminal, and arrest everybody else. So like they had like this double play where they've got an informant running from chapter to chapter in order to allow them to then come in and arrest everybody.
Yeah. And then like, as we're just kind of overlapping here into the Fred Hampton movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, Government Secret Segment 2 overlap.
Thank God we got an introduction, because I was afraid if we segued too seamlessly, there would be no pew pew.
People would freak out. They would be like, is this another segment? I don't know what's going on anymore. Graham's screen is lost. What's happening? So it's yeah, so and also to the point that was brought up in the Fred Hampton movie, that informant, they also were like, oh, we know that informant, they killed a Black Panther member that they thought was an informant. And they just, of course, the FBI just let that happen. So now they're like, well, great. Now we're going to use that to scare our FBI informant in Chicago to I mean, literally, they played every possible angle. They said and Lakeith Stanfield, the actor that played him, did a great job of like showing, he's a really good actor in my opinion, and he showed the conflict of like, man, this ain't right. They've got me over a barrel. But that was one of the tactics they used. They're like, well, because Lakeith, who's playing Bill O'Brien, was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then it's like, well,
wait, Bill O'Neill.
Bill O'Neill. He goes, we could let them know you're an informant, and they'll kill you and set you on fire like they did the other guy. Right. And it's like, so they're like, they used any way to divide. It's divide and conquer. I mean, it's just like come at from all angles, get people to fight within themselves, and then use this informant. And this it sounds almost very similar to the like, oh well, we got the real shooter of Malcolm X, but why not take these other two guys out too? So however,
and we have someone to pin it on so that we can get away with it. We don't want people asking questions. And if we don't arrest anyone, then they'll never stop asking questions. So we've got to pin it on someone. I mean, just like with James Earl Ray. And so, yeah, two birds, one stone. You grab people you didn't like in the neighborhood and you get to pin it on someone. So perfect. I figure for those who have not seen the movie and don't know the history of Fred Hampton, I think we should give a very brief back story. So Fred Hampton, very impressive leader and speaker in the Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers. He became the chairman of that chapter, and he became chairman at like 20 years old, which is fucking crazy. And just like if you read his speeches, they're brilliant, and they're they're well done, and they make incredible points, and I'll get more into this a little bit later as we critique this film, but the Black Panthers, I think it's important people know, because we've grown up, I grew up at least, in a kind of the way they're mentioned is just almost as like a terrorist group. It's just like, fucking Black Panthers. Whereas the reality is they were very multifaceted, doing a lot of impressive work to help the community. There were children's food programs. There was educational stuff, daycare, medical care, clinics, and then, of course, religious stuff as well connected to that. And so much help to the community. And you've got to remember, this is a community that has been, yes, freed from slavery, but continued to be oppressed in American society for fucking generations in every way. And, a lot of that has not ended yet. And so these people were like, we need to stand up for our community and create an organization that will do that and also will protect our community. So many of them started carrying guns to protect their community from a white largely fascist police force. American policing originated from slave patrols. It didn't used to be common to have a white guy with a gun on every street corner, and now it largely is. So there's a lot of history there. We obviously don't need to go into all of it, but so Fred Hampton becomes this leader. He's one of the ones that Hoover and the FBI see as a major threat, and they want to take him out and monitor him. And this movie largely shows him being monitored. And then ultimately he's about to go back to jail, which I didn't realize that until I saw the movie. He was about to be sent back to jail. He'd spent whatever, a year or 6 months in there or something, and then got out and was about to go back for this same nothing charge. But they didn't, at least in this representation, Hoover didn't want him to go back to jail, because in prison you can educate people, you can grow, your legend can grow while you're in prison. He wanted him gone. And so they then go in with the help of this infiltrator who apparently drugged him, and so that he wouldn't wake up when they went into the house, went in and fired like, was it 70 or 90 some bullets?
Yeah.
And killed Fred Hampton and one other Black Panther, shot, and all other people wounded. It was just a fucking storm, like a storm of bullets. And they claim one shot was fired by the Black Panthers. So it was just a massacre. I mean, it was from the beginning of the plan, it was a massacre, and they totally assassinated him. And ultimately the state and other parties had to pay the family $1.7 or $8 million. But, they were asking for far more than that, but at least that shows some level of culpability if they had to pay that settlement.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things too, is the informant wrote out, he drew basically a floor plan of the apartment. So they knew how the Chicago Police Department and the FBI knew how to just get in there. And again, they use this same old tactic of that we still hear today. Oh, they were armed. That the cops had we had no choice. I mean, we heard that all last summer during all the George Floyd protests. And anytime an unarmed Black man is shot, well, he reached, Jacob Blake. Well, he reached into his pocket. Like
he had Skittles. He had a very aggressive bag of Skittles.
An aggressive bag of Skittles. Like, the cop said, we want to see your ID. And they reach into their pocket to get their ID to comply with the cop. And, we thought he had a gun. It's just like, and they're allowed to get away with it because they've been getting away with this for decades. But to just go back a little bit, to give a little bit more of a historical context for everybody. So after the Civil War ended and a lot of people came to the North for the Industrial Revolution, which kind of kicked off right after.
And to get away from the slave states.
They came to cities like Chicago, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and that had these industrial cities. And then they were a lot of the freed slaves and they were put in ghettos, and there was public housing, which was again just to keep them impoverished and keep them basically in a repressive slave state. And that was what was happening, in Chicago in the late 60s. There was those projects are still there in the south side of Chicago. And you also just had, so this was 1969 basically is when he was assassinated, but the year leading up to it, you're talking about the 68 Democratic Convention, which is where the Chicago Police Department, at the behest of Mayor Daley, just unloaded on people, beat the shit out of them. So you're coming off of MLK getting assassinated in April of 68, Bobby Kennedy getting assassinated in June of 68. Malcolm X has already been assassinated. And the Chicago 7 most of them been put in jail. They were the ones they tried to pin the Democratic Party riots on, even though the Chicago police and the FBI started it as always.
Yeah.
Bobby Seale, I think, was in that group.
Well, he was the one chained to the chair with a gag in his mouth during the trial for 3 days because the judge was tired of him trying to speak up and demand a lawyer because he didn't have his lawyer there, which is not how the U.S. judicial system works. And so he literally was chained to a chair and gagged during a portion of the trial. And I believe Fred Hampton was there, at least for some of it, kind of advising Bobby Seale and stuff.
So Hoover and who was a cross-dresser and a closeted gay man.
His number one crime was likely not the cross-dressing. That actually is the only likable thing about him.
I point that out not to judge anybody that's gay or cross-dressing, but to just show you when you repress your sexuality,
right,
you become a monster. Like if he would have just been like, hey, I'm gay, he wouldn't have been killing and jailing all these people. It would have been so much, just like Mike Pence. Mike Pence is gay. Let's be honest. Mike, come out of the closet. You'll be so much happier. You won't be afraid to have lunch with women. You just, it's okay. Just people will love you. You'll be accepted, and you won't be such a jack.
Or the thousands of priests, or the tens of thousands of cases against the Boy Scout leaders.
Yes,
that have just come out. I mean, they haven't come out, but the allegations have come out. And I think they'd be better off if they admitted they're gay and had adult male relationships.
Yeah, just have consensual gay relationships. You'll be a lot happier. The gay community will love you. You'll be great. Just don't be such a fuckhead. So anyway, J. Edgar Hoover was a fuckhead. And he, so if you look at that timeline, Fred Hampton was one of the last living, active, vocal, unifying voices in the Black community, because they had gotten rid of everybody else, either had jailed or murdered everybody else.
There's one or two that fled to Africa because they were just chased endlessly. I mean, here's the thing is, when you're being followed night and day and your phones are being tapped and everything, you then get more paranoid that you're being followed when you aren't being followed. So it would make life pretty fucking miserable, and they fled.
Yep. And then Hampton, and I was curious before I saw this movie, I was like, are they going to really tell this story correctly? Because I'm like, how did this story happen? Because Netflix, I mean, it's on HBO, but Netflix and HBO and all the streaming services, they don't allow a lot of socialist lefty shit to get in there. It's all neoliberal bullshit. It celebrates the CIA and we love Obama and American exceptionalism and all this crap. And I'm like, how are they going to let this in? Well, they found a loophole. They found a loophole, a chink in the armor, basically, because Hollywood, which is all neoliberal for the most part, last spring when the George Floyd stuff happened, Hollywood said, we need Black stories. So that's why this was allowed to come in there. Cause I'm like,
go ahead.
So they don't want this message in there, but this is one of the key things that is in the story that I knew about Fred Hampton. And I know you did too. And most of our audience did. He went to, white people in a neighborhood in Chicago called Hillbilly Harlem, which again, Southern whites came north for industrial jobs, just like Southern blacks did after the Civil War for the Industrial Revolution. And that was the nickname of that neighborhood was Hillbilly Harlem because it was mostly Southern whites, and some of them were openly racist. They had Confederate flags and all that stuff. And Hampton spoke to them, and I suggest everybody to go watch some of his speeches. They're on YouTube, where he's talking about capitalism created racism. Capitalism keeps us divided. And there's a powerful scene in the actual movie where one of his guys in the Black Panther Party, they show up at this like white person rally, whatever the name of the group is, and there's a big Confederate flag. And one of the Black Panthers goes, man, that was the flag when your people lynched my people. And then one of the white people goes, we didn't lynch any. We were sharecroppers. We weren't slave owners. My family was poor. And it was like, oh, that was the thing. Hampton was trying to getting the working class unified. Yep. And he reached out to the Puerto Rican neighborhood, and he reached out to another gang. I forget what they were called, but
the Crowns or the Crows or
the Crowns, right? And it was powerful. And again, we know this from doing this show and both of our own shows, is that when you start unifying people against the 1%, forget it. They put a bullseye on your head. And
yeah, that's probably you can reveal things, just don't start unifying people. That's
yeah, that's it.
That's a real problem. So I agree with you on kind of the loophole of getting this through, and so it did. I felt it did a good job of a legit job of largely making the police seem like scumbags, which they were, and they made a good job of fleshing out Fred Hampton as a human being. They didn't just make him kind of a one angle. And they made him being locked up, and they made it seem like bullshit. What I would argue, though, that they either failed to do or didn't even try was to create the dynamic of the Black Panthers being far more than just gun-toting, belligerent, let's create revolution and shoot cops. And I think that for you or me coming into that movie with some education, even a little education on what the Black Panthers were and what that time was like, we can watch it and be like, oh, this is doing a pretty good job. But I think that people coming into that movie without an education of that time or of the Black Panthers, they'll probably walk away from it thinking the Black Panthers were terrorists, and also the cops were mostly terrorizing them as well. And that's kind of, if you do go into it like that and you come out of it like that, then that is a shitty thing to learn and flawed and inaccurate. It gave no, and I get that a movie cannot encapsulate all of fucking American history, but there were a couple of mentions of how the Black Panthers feed the community or take care of children, but there wasn't. All you would need is like a 3-minute scene that showed them, which in movie time is longer than a flash shot. It's an extended scene where they're taking care of people, and you don't see guns and you don't see berets, because guess what? A lot of Black Panthers were not wearing berets every second, and to kind of show that the Black Panthers were. I mean, it makes sense, because if they were running around just shooting cops, you wouldn't even have heard of them. They would have been massacred within 3 minutes. Most of what they did was take care of the community and try and feed people, try and, give them medical care, et cetera, and give speeches and stuff. So like, that was what bugged me about it. I mean, I think if you did a word search of that script, probably the number one word that repeats in that script is pigs. It's said every 3 seconds. And I'm not saying that they didn't use the word pigs. They certainly did. But there's a lot more to the Black Panthers than just let's fuck up the pigs.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. You're right. You and I know the context of this, and we know what the Black Panther Party did. But if you didn't, or you're a younger person or whatever, yeah, you could definitely be misled. Like, oh, they did some stuff in the community, but basically they were violent and killed cops. I could definitely see somebody coming away from this Fred Hampton movie with that, which is as you point out, that's an egregious error. That's a huge mistake to make.
Right.
And I
don't think the other version could be made. Would be allowed to be made, or wouldn't be bought by HBO. If it showed the Black Panthers being good people, like on a larger scale than just Fred Hampton. It shows Fred Hampton being a good person, but it didn't really show the Black Panthers as a good organization.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's why it did get it. One of the reasons it got in there is it didn't really show all of the stuff that the Black Panther Party did. They were only depicted as violent, cop killing terrorists. They were only depicted that way. And they did not show how they protected their own community, fed healthcare clinics, all this stuff, school, and that they just weren't getting. And it's funny, you hear the same stuff said back then that we're hearing said today. Like back then it was, why are we spending all this money on Vietnam? Well, now it's like, the Vietnam War budget is like maybe a percentage of what we spend now. I mean, like, it's the same thing now. Why isn't the richest country in the history of the world? Like, look what's happening in Texas. Like, you can't tell. Yes, you can go into the specifics of the Texas, Energy Commission or whatever it's called. But still, that's just more. This is late stage capitalism what's happening in Texas. And
you know what else is it unless they are divided by the corporate talking points, etc. What's happening in Texas, which in various ways is happening across the country, but is a very uniting thing to happen. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're fucking black or white or Asian or really poor or middle class. You're going to be fucked up in Texas when the power goes out and your living room starts growing icicles from the ceiling. Like, yes, there are some people that are rich enough to fly away, like Ted Cruz, but in general, this unites people, seeing how the systems are failing them, seeing how when you create a system that is only about exploitation and is only about greed and is only about enriching a tiny number of individuals, then guess what? Everyone else eventually will get fucked to a level that they can't even survive, that they're living in a fucking freezing cold apartment with no electricity and trying to figure out how they're getting through the night. And that unites people. If you have people to remind everyone, hey, look at this. We're all in this together. Let's create a society that doesn't treat us this way, that doesn't exploit people like this. But of course, now we're going to see that the media talking points will divide people again. You know, this is the Republicans' fault. This is the Democrats' fault. This, you know.
And the Americans are fault. But to be clear, wait a minute. I thought it was Ted Cruz's daughter's fault that he had to leave, right? Isn't that why he couldn't
I love that his explanation almost was in a way even more elitist. No. I wasn't flying away to Cancun. I was just flying there for a day to drop my daughters off. Who flies to Cancun to drop their kids off? Do you understand what kind of fucking life you're living? You goddamn asshole.
Yeah, the only reason you flew back is because you got busted on social media, Ted. Like, and you're too stupid to even fly in a private jet, you idiot. Like, had you taken a private jet, nobody would have known. But instead, you're waiting in line with that dumb face of yours and that stupid haircut. And Ted Cruz, like, oh God, you know, on an upgrade list, like you moron, like. That's how I fly, you dipshit. Like, get out of here. Like, I'm.
Oh my God! Someone told me there's a photo being circulated of apparently his family's dog. They have a tiny little white dog that was left in the freezing cold blackout house. So there's but you could like see it through the window. So the dog's sitting there like, you left me in this fucking freezing house and went to Cancun. And it's like, of course they did. They're sociopaths. They don't care about a fucking dog. Remember when Romney strapped his dog to the roof of his car and drove 2 hours on the highway? Like, that's how right-wingers view animals, because they can't even relate to a human being. How would they give a fuck about an animal?
Yeah, they... Well, it says in the Bible, Leviticus 4:17, that the doggeth should freezeth while I go to Cancun. So there we go. It's like, I hope you're right that like people seeing, because that's the other thing too. Like, and to hear some dipshit neoliberals on social media like, ha, that's what you get for being a red state. Like, you're an idiot. First of all, there's plenty of lefties in you know, the largest number of new DSA chapters opening was in the state of Texas over the last 4 years. So, and I've done shows down there. You've done shows down there. There's a lot of lefties. I got friends down there. That's a stupid social media thing to do. And you just are showing why you're an idiot blue check neoliberal that thinks Joe Biden is going to make him change things for the better.
Yeah, so absolutely. And was California not on fucking fire and running out of prisoners to fight the fires? Like, yes. Both of these states, one's red, one blue. It shows you how both parties don't care about you at all. They don't care. Like, if you think your state's better because it's red or it's blue, you're a fucking idiot. You're dumber than Ted Cruz's dog, and that's offensive to dogs. And I apologize to any dogs out there who are smart. Listen, Graham, that dog is a slave. All right. He was bought and sold into that household. Can't believe you take it out on him like that.
I'm sorry. You're dumber than Ted Cruz. Let's put it that way. The dog doesn't deserve that. My apologies. That dog should run free. Someone should rescue that dog, and then Ted Cruz should be put down. But I like this is. I hope Americans go. And Texas. I hope people are realizing that like Texas did this. We didn't want federal regulation, and they sold it to Texans as Texas. Texas stands alone. No. A bunch of rich assholes in the 1930s, the rich oil guys, made a law so they didn't have to pay for stuff that this should.
You mean the electric grid was sold, right?
Yeah, the electric grid was deregulated, and it was big rich oil guys, which have been running Texas for a long time. They don't care about you. They don't care if you got a Trump flag or a GOP stick. They don't give a shit about you, man. And so I hope people realize, and then to listen to the governor go on Fox and say, well, this is what happens with renewable energy. No, dipshit.
Windmills are 15% of Texas's energy, and they've been performing above par. Like, this had nothing to do with the fucking windmills.
Oh, it's so like, and hey, anyone in any other state, this could happen to you, because this is what capitalism looks like. There's 3 energy grids: the East Coast, the West Coast, and Texas. So, your whole East Coast grid could go down.
The East Coast, the West Coast, and stupid.
It's like, you guess what though? If all of these, okay, the West Coast, a bunch of Democrat neoliberals, whatever, they'll make deals with whatever power company helps pay for Gavin Newsom's teeth whitener. They don't give a shit. Like, they're all mad.
I thought his teeth actually powered part of California.
Yeah, there are battery packs that go into. That's why his hair never moves. That's his battery charger. So
I thought they just plugged in his teeth for a couple hours.
Yeah, that's what they do. His teeth. He just sits there out in the sun with his teeth, talking in sentences that are way too long.
You know, the most damning thing I've ever heard about Gavin Newsom is that he was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle, the Fox News psychopath.
Oh, God.
Who is now dating or married or whatever to Trump Jr.
What an incestuous band of maggots. God, I hate the 1%. They all just rat fuck maggots. Like, and I hope people realize this is what we need: unity, because we are all in this together. And I'm hearing, I just donated to the Houston Food Bank because I got an email from the People's Party, from Nick Brown at the People's Party. So like, we all got to go and help out however we can, because if you're living a different part of the country and you think this can't happen to you because, oh, we're smarter here or better, or we're blue, or we're more whatever, you're wrong. Capitalism will come fucking take your food away. It'll freeze you to death. It'll leave your dog alone in a mansion. It'll fucking kill. This is what it does. So
yeah,
I hope
I mean, it's like, in a lot of ways, it's like our infrastructure is being mined right now to enrich the oligarchs. And so they aren't going to spend money on anything that doesn't make them a lot of money in short term, within the next, year or two. And that's what happened. That's part of what happened in Texas is there was no financial incentive, market incentive for them to develop their energy grid to deal with a crisis like this, to deal with with a greater or lesser need from the norm of what Texas needs. So this went outside of that norm, and they had never built up the ability to deal with that because guess what? That costs money. Now, in a functioning society, you do those things because guess what? It's to take care of your people during a crisis. It's not for profit, but we have a system, like you said, late stage capitalism. We have a system that is purely only focused on profit and money. There is no consideration for environment, no consideration for taking care of the people. And in the moments where people are taken care of, it's usually a lucky side effect. It's not usually by design.
Whoops, you got taken care of. Sorry, didn't see that coming, but I guess... hey, well, I'll take credit for it because I'm a dipshit oligarch.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, this is the other thing too. The state of Texas and the whole United States, for that matter, we could be we could be on all green energy sustainability, like everybody. And this is the other thing too. What happened in Texas. I've been hearing talk about our national power grid is outdated. It's not efficient. It's wasteful and also susceptible to being hacked.
According to MSNBC, it was hacked by the Russians.
Oh no, not again. Like,
now, in fact, that entire story collapsed and it wasn't true at all. However, the fact that they said that could happen, maybe we should modernize our fucking electric system.
Wow. Gee, I wonder if everybody, like if the government, rather than spending trillions of dollars on war and nonsense, what if these defense contractor companies that get bloated contracts to go make things that kill poor people, what if they put their technology and research and all the brain power that all of the people who work at Boeing and Northrop Grumman and all those companies had, put it towards, you could have your own sustainable regenerative energy with a battery. So if there's no power grid to go down, and you could have a bunch of plugs on the side of your house so that if your neighbor's power goes down, but yours doesn't, you could help your neighbor. Oh, well, see, there's no profit in that in the long term. Actually, you could make that profitable by making sure people had that. These are products to sell. But, we can't do that because we let the oligarchs do everything. So I just...
And I've covered stories. I mean, there were a few years ago, so I don't remember all the details, but stories in both Florida and Texas where communes or joint living situations were like raided and people arrested essentially for living off the grid. Like that was their true crime. I mean, they tried to find other reasons, didn't have a clean living kitchen area or whatever the fuck they tried to get them on. The children weren't, getting the proper education or whatever they tried to get them on. But the real reason was because these living scenarios were outside of the electric grid and outside of what the state could make money on and the state could, oversee. I mean, that was the real reason these places were torn apart.
Of course. So it's just another way to keep us down. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, like, tell me if you saw this happening in any other country, you saw what was happening. People are boiling their water. People don't have, I heard a kid died in a trailer because he froze to death, like in Texas. So this is like,
and then there's a lot of fires and things from people trying to warm themselves with hair dryers and shit like that.
Yeah. There's been all these fires. So people don't have electricity. They don't have clean water. There's fires. There's a government that doesn't care about them. So you got that. You got what happened at the Capitol. You got an outdated election system that is just ripe with people doing whatever kind of fraud. You had the police reaction to all of the protests over last summer.
That is not fair. We have a high-tech touchscreen system where you push a button and it says you voted for Hillary Clinton every time.
And if you didn't, it's because you're a misogynist. Yeah, I mean, if you were watching this, we have the highest death rate, the highest number of deaths, and the highest death rate from COVID-19. I mean, you would be like, this is a country that is completely collapsing, and Americans, I don't know, are Americans realizing this, or have they just been, they're just the frog in the pot and the water's boiling and they're just like, wow, I guess I have a fever. Like, I don't get it. Like,
I think it's both. I think, yes, we're the frog in the pot. We're not doing almost anything about climate change. I mean, signing on to like the Paris Climate Agreement is like laughable. It's like, thank God we got a president in there who would clap his hands and say, go away, climate change. Like, yeah. That's the extent of what they've done. So in a way, yes, we are the frog in the pot. I do also think people are waking up. I don't know if it's happening fast enough, but the fact that Independent is now the number one political party, it's not really a party, but Independent is now surpassed both Democrats and Republicans. I think that is that waking up process. So it's getting there. I don't know if it's getting there fast enough. And obviously, to go back to our suppression, your demonetization, they're trying to stop that as much as possible. That's what's going on right now. And you also, speaking of the waking up, I thought maybe we could spend a couple of minutes real quick on MPP, Movement for a People's Party. They're getting attacked a lot right now. And, you know, my view on this is that electoral politics is not generally going to be where the major change comes, but that doesn't mean I'm not for throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. If this is the way that we can create that ultimately the way change is created, then fucking great. And people are trying to attack them in all these ways, and it just to me shows that they're having an impact. I mean, when you get this effective this quickly, they're like raising more money than a lot of Democrats. They're already on the ballot, and it's either 3 or 4 states, one of them being California, which is the largest state in the union and the 5th or something largest economy in the world. So it's they're getting MPP is already getting dangerous to the Democrats, and that's why they are being attacked on a level that they haven't before.
Yeah, and I would tell, first of all, everybody hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on either one of our YouTube platforms, like and subscribe and do all that stuff. And then if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, positive reviews, 5-star reviews, share this government secrets out into the world. And of course, I've been demonetized by YouTube because they're soulless cocksuckers. Could
the soulless cocksuckers get together with the robot bag of dicks and maybe have a exchange program?
That'd be great. I think if that happens, then we're going to be like Terminator. Like that's it's just robot AI is coming to murder us. But the thing with I agree with you about moving for a People's Party. I don't have much faith in electoral politics, but again, I'm all for it. And I don't think, I know you don't feel this way either, but like an independent party is going to come in and they're going to save the day. No, it'll be a bunch of different things that are going to save. We have a multitude of really severe problems, and it's going to take a multitude of solutions. One of them is the People's Party. If it gets enough strength and people are so hungry for it, especially like what you say, they're watching or they're living in Texas watching this going, hey man, I voted for Republicans. I voted for Democrats. Neither one of them do shit. It doesn't matter. You're going to, if the People's Party were to get a bunch of winners in the midterms, that's significant. I mean, even if they just got 4 or 5 People's Party people in Congress, that would be unbelievable. People don't realize how significant that is, because they would vote as a block, and they would actually vote other than just tweet like the squad does. They would actually say, we're not voting for this. Well, we need you for the majority. Yeah, you need to take out this, this, and this, and you need to add Medicare for all. And then, then we're not voting. It'd be that simple. And it wouldn't be. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also, even if they just got close to winning, you would see Democrats moving to the left because they would fear that there's a challenge to their left. Right now, they don't feel there's any challenge to their left, so they're just going to go with what corporations tell them to do.
Yeah, and just they'll do whatever the corporations have to do, and they'll just be like a half an inch to the left of the Republican Party and tell you, yes, we're the lesser of two evils, and dipshit liberals, many of them former friends on Facebook of mine, will go, yay, because they're fucking idiots. They're fucking idiots. They're stupid. You know who you are. You're not smart enough to watch this show, but you know who you are. I've unfriended you. You're fucking dumb. You still think Obama's great. You're a moron. That's why you're still on Facebook. You don't even know what TikTok is. Anyway, it's like, so they're those, believe me, it'll be blue check neoliberals that'll resist the People's Party the most. But
oh my God, that's who the attacks are coming from.
Of course.
The attacks are not coming from like average voters or independent voters. No, the attacks are coming from like liberals who, think that the Democratic Party is holier than thou, and you just need to do whatever the Democratic Party says, and anything left of that is harmful to them.
Yes.
And yeah, that's all it is. And the people who like claim like, oh, I was a MPP member and they don't, it's a grift or whatever. I can guarantee you that 98% of those people were from the beginning, from the moment they showed up, were Democrat, liberal assholes infiltrating the MPP, and the other 2% are fucking idiots.
Yeah, they're just shitheads. They're just dumb. They're just
dum-dums. Yeah.
They're dumb. They're dum-dums. They're Ted Cruz's haircut. They're that dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting to see in some sense. I mean, they'll be real. I mean, the other thing that dumb liberals will do, they'll be like, well, if moving for a People's Party undermines the Democrats, then the Republicans will take over. Like that's their whole cry is we don't want real change. We just need this thin wall of incremental centrism to hold back the hordes of the GOP party when it's like, no, you're the problem. You get in the way of real change. Like,
the Republicans have already taken over because the Democrats are the Republicans and the Republicans are fascists. Like,
yeah,
they already took over.
Yeah, they have already taken over. So yeah, all right. Well, that's I'm excited about a little movement for a People's Party. MPP bonus segment. Well, I guess is that our episode, or is there more stuff?
I think that's it. I guess to give a sum up, I think that when you go watch the Fred Hampton movie, just know that it does make cops look like shitheads, which they are. They clearly assassinated Fred Hampton while he was asleep after being drugged by their informant. The informant felt so guilty that when he did an interview in the 1990s, the only interview he ever gave, he then killed himself. The cops are shitheads, but also know that the Black Panthers were not just a terrorist organization that ran around with guns. There was more to them than that.
Yeah, they did a lot. Yeah, so if you watch that movie and you're sort of new to Fred Hampton, the Black Panther Party, do some more research on what the Black Panther Party actually did, how they help people, and then watch some of the Fred Hampton YouTube interviews. And some of them, the sound and quality isn't great, but watch them because what he says and how he spoke and what he was talking about and how he unified people is really powerful. Not that this movie doesn't do a decent job of that, and they got a very good actor to do it, but really watch who use this movie as just sort of like an entry, a gateway into Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party and what they were doing. So I would recommend that too, and then do a little more research, and we'll see what happens. I feel like with the Ray Wood stuff, the letter coming forward Saturday, I think we might hear some more about what actually happened to Malcolm X.
Could be interesting. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. I mean, when you're 40, 50 years removed, the people who did it are dying or dead, and then they can come forward and be like, yeah, here's the truth.
Yeah. I hope so. All right, dude. Well, where can people follow all of the Lee Campness?
Yeah, the easiest place is to go to leecamp.com. I have another podcast called Common Censored. I got a TV show called Redacted tonight. That's the main stuff. My book is at leecampbook.com. And that's it.
Right on, folks. Well, I've been demonetized by Stalin Tube. I cannot make any money at all on YouTube. I get to appeal that March 3rd, and honestly, I hold no hope. And even if they do bring me back, they'll just take it away again.
Do you know what the appeal is like? Do you sit in front of jury of your peers?
I sit in front of a robot bag of dicks of my peers.
Wait, do they at least have little hats on?
Yeah, they'll have. I think it's kind of like in the first Superman movie back in the 80s, there's 78 with Christopher Reeve, where like they put in front of that guilty, that just those big heads say guilty.
Yeah.
So I think
so you're in the so right now you're in like that glass pane that they put the fucking villains in.
I'm in the neutral zone.
That's
absolutely correct. I'm Zod. Yes.
And with the dark black background behind you right now, you kind of look like it.
Yeah. So now come, son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod. That's what's going to happen at my trial.
Zod, or as I like to call him, Evil George Carlin.
It's even. Yes. Terrence Stamp is Evil George Carlin. Without a doubt. There's no two ways about it. Terrence Stamp is the Evil George Carlin. Oh my God. George Carlin's doing funny stuff about baseball is like this, football's like that. And then Terrence Stamp is like, you people God. Like, oh my God. Yes. So please support what I do by going to rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up. I have a lot of free videos. I'm still dropping like one video a day on YouTube, but all my videos are going up on Rockfin as they have been, and they are free to watch and they have no ads on them. And then there's a premium level if you want to support the show that way. It's $10 a month. You get all of my premium content, all of Lee's, everybody who's on Rockfin, you get all their premium content. And then this Thursday, I did it a couple of times like last year, but I'm going to start doing this every week. The Political Vigilante Game Show, 7 o'clock this Thursday, 7 o'clock Pacific time. My guests competing against each other are Jimmy and Steph Zamorano. So Lee, would you and Eleanor like to come on a future episode?
Yeah, absolutely. What do we do? you have to take your clothes off and dance, and it's not easy, but
yeah, you can dance if you want to. You can leave.
It's kind of like Fear Factor, where you eat the bull penis with the bees on it.
Yeah. It's you gotta eat the bull penis with the bees on it. While Evil George Carlin mocks you. That's what happens. That's totally no. It's just a quiz show where you answer questions. Like I'll put out a question. First person to raise their hand gets to answer it. And the categories are stuff like who said this, Republican or Democrat? Is this Sharia law or state law? I'm going to add some new categories like name that empire. And I
like it.
So it's fun. You'll like it.
So it's like, wait, don't tell me except not neoliberal garbage.
Yeah. Probably. I don't listen to that crap, but
the NPR game show.
Oh yeah, it's like that. Except not neoliberal garbage that just says Trump was the first bad president we've ever had. No, it's
right.
You'll like it because it'll go into there'll be some GovSeeks type things in there and some operations and projects.
Cool. But if you get like 5 questions wrong, you can get back in the game by eating a bull penis.
Sure, if you really want to, that's something you're. I don't want to stop you from eating bull penis covered in bees. If that's what you want to do here on the show,
I'm trying to produce this thing for you. God damn it! Don't you understand, Graham? You'll be back in the prime hunt if you just had a bull penis with bees in there.
Yes, eventually this show will be on prime time for
sure. Do you want a billboard with your face on it or not?
I've had those before.
Yes.
Strip poker only on Whammy in Miami. I had that. I was on a billboard in Miami and Dallas. Fantastic.
Really? Nice.
Oh, please go watch Strip Poker on YouTube. It's fantastic. You'll see me with really long sideburns.
Really? What year was this?
2000.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 14. Yeah.
Now we're getting into the real government secrets.
Yeah, Strip Poker was a CIA psyop for certain. It was designed to dumb down America, and now this is my penance for that show. Is doing
now you're in the neutral zone because you went afoul. You went afoul of Strip Poker.
Graham Elwood, you've committed the crime of telling the truth. Now you will be forever in the... No, you will be stuck with Evil George Carlin in space. Oh, yeah. So how about a week from Thursday, you and Eleanor? I'll send you the details, but can you do that? Thursday, 7 o'clock. So it'll be late for you guys. It'll be 10 o'clock Eastern.
Shoot me an email. I should probably consult her before I sign away her life, but yeah.
She might be like, only if it's bull penises. And then we'll know it's going to work. All right. I'll shoot you an email. And we'll
key is you got to eat the bees first and then go for them.
Everyone tries to scrape off the bees. That's not how you do it.
No.
Crunch. It's like granola in a smoothie. You know what I mean? It's really... or like fried onions on a hot dog. Anyway, I'll let you
Right.
figure it out. You guys figure it out on your end. I'm not going to tell you how to live. All right, that was a lot of bonus. Since it was episode 30, we did some bonus content. Episode 30, government secrets, bull penis with bees.
All right, man. Have a good night. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it, buddy. Take care.